Communication is the process of transmitting or exchanging information. It can involve asserting, arguing, debating, deliberating, contacting, pressuring, appealing to, cajoling, and addressing. Information are facts, knowledge, and views that people communicate about subjects and events. It encompasses news, opinion, and commentary, and the contents of entertainment. The mass media are well-established communications formats such as newspapers and magazines, network television, and radio stations designed to reach large audiences. New media are forms of electronic communication made possible by computer and digital technologies. Journalist A.J. Liebling wrote, "The function of the press is to inform, but its role is to make money." Three interrelated factors are central to the development of the U.S. media industry and its political contents. They are economics, government, and politics, and technology. Government is involved with the media as a regulator, censor, and enabler. Technological innovation can change media economics, relations with politicians and government, and the media's political contents. Thus, the development of television made it easier for candidates to communicate directly with voters and reduce the importance of political parties in elections. A few multinational conglomerates dominate the mass media. They own the main television networks and production companies, most of the popular cable channels, the major movie studios, magazines, book publishers, the top recording companies, and have significant ownership interest in the internet media. Other large corporations own most of the newspapers, major magazines, television and radio stations, and cable systems. The core of the mass media of the departed 20th century was the newspaper. Even now, newspapers originate most of the domestic and foreign news. During recent years, sales have plummeted as many people have given up, or, as with the young, never acquired the newspaper habit. There are roughly 5,000 magazines published on every conceivable subject. 5 publishers account for around 1/3 of the total revenue generated. Political and social issues are commonly covered in news weeklies such as Time and in popular magazines such as People and Vanity Fair. To survive, journals of political opinion usually depend on subsidies from wealthy individuals and partisans who support their views. The Weekly Standard, the voice of the Republican neoconservatives and one of the most influential publications in Washington, with a circulation of approximately 75,000, loses around $5 million annually. It was initially owned and funded by media mogul Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation, which makes big profits elsewhere through its diverse holdings such as Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. People watch an average of 35 hours of programming on television weekly. There are over 1,000 for-profit television stations in the United States. Most of them are affiliated with or owned by one of the networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, which produce news, public affairs, and sports programs. Viewing also occurs on content streaming services such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, YouTube, and Disney+. Unusual or controversial programs are put on the air by networks and channels that may be doing poorly in the ratings and are willing to try something out of the ordinary to attract viewers. In 1989, executives at the then relatively new Fox network commissioned The Simpsons. Matt Groening, its creator, has identified the show's political message this way: figures of authority might not always have your best interest at heart. Entertain and subvert, that's my motto. The show, satirizing American family life, government, politics, and the media, has become one of television's longest-running and most popular series worldwide. Of the 90 or so ad-supported cable channels, 10, including USA, TNT, Fox News, A&E, and ESPN, have almost 1/3 of all viewers. Other channels occasionally attract audiences through programs that are notable or notorious. Cable channels thrive, or at least survive, financially because they receive subscriber fees from cable companies such as Comcast and AT&T Time Warner. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting was created by the federal government in 1967 as a private, non-profit corporation to oversee the development of public television and radio. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting receives an annual allocation from Congress. Most of the funds are funneled to the more than 300 public television stations of the Public Broadcasting Service, or PBS, and over 600 public radio stations, most affiliated with the National Public Radio, or NPR, to cover operating costs and the production and purchase of programs. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting's board members are appointed by the President, making public television and radio vulnerable or at least sensitive to the expectations of the incumbent administration. Congress sometimes charges the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to review programs for objectivity, balance, or fairness, and to fund additional programs to correct alleged imbalances in views expressed. About half of public broadcasting stations' budgets come from viewers and listeners. Other funding comes from state and local governments, from state colleges and universities, and from foundations. Corporations and local businesses underwrite programs in return for on-air acknowledgments akin to advertisements for their image and products. Their decisions to underwrite a show tend to favor politically innocuous over provocative programs. Public television and radio thus face similar pressures from advertisers as their for-profit counterparts. Public broadcasting delves into politics, particularly with its evening news programs and documentaries in its Frontline series. National Public Radio, with an audience of around 27 million listeners, weekly broadcasts lengthy news programs during the morning and evening with reports from domestic and foreign bureaus. NPR has several call-in current events programs. Guests from a spectrum of cultural life are interviewed by Terry Gross on her program Fresh Air. On the Media analyzes the news business in all its aspects, and Ira Glass's This American Life features distinctive individuals delving into important issues and quirky subjects. Most of these programs are also available via podcast. Around 10,000 commercial FM and AM radio stations in the United States broadcast over the airwaves. During the 1990s, Congress and the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, dropped many restrictions on ownership and essentially abandoned the requirement that stations must serve the public interest. This led to the demise of much public affairs program and to a frenzy of mergers and acquisitions. Companies and performers now make music that is cheaply available online through services such as Apple's iTunes Store. Many people download music from the internet or burn CDs for themselves and others. Music often contains political content. Contrast Green Day's scathing 2005 hit song American Idiot and its lyric One Nation Controlled by the Media with Lee Greenwood's patriotic God Bless the USA. Some rap lyrics celebrate capitalism and consumerism. Some even advocate attacks on authority figures. The movie business is dominated by 6 major studios which finance and distribute about 130 feature films each year. Mass market logic usually pushes them to seek stories that are sufficiently original that the audience will not feel it has already seen the movie, yet similar enough to past hits not to be too far out. Superheroes, science fiction and fantasy, sophomoric comedies, and animation dominate. Sequels are frequent. Special effects are common. In Robin Altman's satire, The Player, the protagonist says that certain elements he needs to market a film successfully are violence, suspense, laughter, hope, heart, nudity, sex, and a happy ending. It is said in Hollywood that politics is box office poison. The financial failure of films concerned with U.S. involvement in Iraq, such as In the Valley of Elah in 2007, appear to confirm this axiom. Nonetheless, the major studios and independents do sometimes make politically relevant moves. Some 100,000 books are published annually. About 70% of them will not earn back the money that their authors have been advanced. E-books are beginning to boom. The advantage for readers is obtaining the book cheaper and quicker than by mail or from a bookstore. For publishers, there are no costs for printing, shipping, warehousing, and returns. But digital books could destroy bookstores if, for example, publishers sold them directly to the iPad. Indeed, publishers themselves could be eliminated if authors sold their rights to, say, Amazon. Books featuring political revelations often receive widespread coverage in the rest of the media. They are excerpted in magazines and newspapers. Their authors appear on television and radio programs. An example is President George W. Bush's former press secretary Scott McClellan, who, while praising the president in his memoir as authentic and sincere, also accused him of lacking in candor and competence. In our next video, we will complete this lecture on the media.